Hi guys, and welcome to Desi Dutch. This is your host Amjad today with a very very special guest. I know I say very special guest every single time, but this time I actually genuinely have a very special guest because this is our first non-Desi Desi guest we have on the show. So we have Lazifa today from Azerbaijan with us. Lazifa is a teacher and she's been in Baku for a few years. We met in Turkey, and she's going to be telling us how she's like holding up in lockdown in Baku, and how generally it is to be a teacher in this time period. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So, Lazifa, welcome to Desi Dutch.
Thank you so much. Hi. I'm actually very honored to be like the first, in that case, international person here. And like, I was actually so surprised when you messaged me. I was like, oh, how humbling that you want to talk to me. That's awesome. Really
Yeah,
glad to be here.
Definitely, I think it's all about mutuals. So like I've been asking everybody throughout my mutuals. I'm like, you know what, get me guests, because I'm running out of people that I know. So Swas said, hey, have you
Oh,
interviewed someone
cool.
in Azerbaijan? I said, no, I haven't actually. He's like, why don't you interview Lazifa? She's also a teacher. And I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. So
Thank
I'll
you.
ask
That's
Lazifa.
awesome.
Yeah, and it's really
Kudos to
interesting.
us then.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting for me because you're a teacher, so that's really something I really wanted to like
Yeah.
discuss today. So just before we start anything, just an introduction: who's Lazifa, what does she do, how is Lazifa doing in the lockdown, etc., etc.
Yeah, well, I do teach. I teach English, but I work in a private course, so it affects us slightly different than normal schools. But I've been living in Azerbaijan for almost 3 years, like post graduation, as you know, and I started teaching pretty much as soon as I got here. And it's a private course, we work 6 days a week, we go, we teach, and then after all of this happened, everything really changed, and you just have to adjust to online teaching, which is so new. I mean, I've never done online teaching before, and you just had to adapt like how to deal with homework, how to deal with assignments. So that was quite a process. But again, I do think that we have it easier than schools because
Yeah,
schools, I mean, you have older teachers who have very little knowledge of technology. Oh my God, they can't even adjust. And they also have like lots of big groups, like 20, 30 people. Whereas in my case, I tend to teach like one or two students every hour.
all
It's
right.
more individual, yeah.
Oh,
So it's
interesting.
easier for us. Mhm.
Yeah. So, like, before we get into this whole teaching thing, because of course I would want to know about everything, the pros and the cons and everything. But before we get into that, I want to know about the lockdown. So, how long have you been in the lockdown? It's almost a month and a half here. So, how's it
Same.
going there?
I mean, I would say that our country reacted, like our government reacted very quickly. I'm proud to say that. I actually checked the statistics today, like before you called me, just to
Yeah.
be really sure. I didn't want to give any wrong information, but until now we've had 21 deaths and something slightly over 1,600 cases, and already like over 1,000 have recovered. So like I think they've really like the measures prove, I mean, have been very effective till now. The first thing they did, honestly, was just shut down the schools. I mean, they shut down the schools essentially, if I'm not mistaken, around the 3rd of March.
All
That was
right.
the first thing. And I remember when they did that, even I was one of those people who was a bit like, is that really necessary? Because at that time, we probably only had like 5, 10 cases, not more.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, oh, that's strange. Like they're reacting so quickly. And then within a week, they're like, okay, well, you should start working from home. They started shutting down offices and things like that. And by now, like we've been on an SMS permission system as well. So it's been over 2 weeks. It's been like maybe 3 weeks or something that we have to ask for permission to leave our houses by sending an SMS, and we have only 2 hours every day.
Oh,
So I
interesting.
mean, yeah, very strict measures, but
Oh,
I
those
mean,
are
like,
very, very strict measures because generally here in Holland and in Germany, because apparently Germany is almost recovered, Holland is still doing a
mhm,
little bit worse. Germany
mhm.
has more than, I think, 150,000 cases or something, and
Wow.
they only have 2,000 deaths. Compared to everybody else, that's very, very
Yeah,
less. So
yeah.
they've really managed to flatten the curve. They're actually planning to open up everything now because they're like, we've done it. But in Germany and Holland, we don't have strict measures. It's so weird. I've interviewed so many guests, and
Yeah,
everyone is talking the same thing. In
yeah,
France, you have to get a paper and go outside. In
mhm,
Spain, in Italy, and in Azerbaijan, you have to SMS.
yeah,
Here,
yeah,
everybody's outside, no issue. But it's just that people are just already used to it. No one comes close to anybody else. So when I go
mhm,
running outside, when I'm running and someone sees me that I'm running towards them, they
uh-huh,
automatically shift a bit to the left or shift to the
wow,
right. And so it's never been that strict for us. It's just work from home. Restaurants are closed, public places are closed, but
mhm,
you are your own people. You shouldn't be dumb about it. So they've
yeah,
kept that open for us. And there are a lot of people who are dumb about it, to be honest.
Mm,
But
definitely. And I
it's
think that's part of why, sorry to cut
no,
you
no,
off,
no
I think
worries.
that's part of why they have this SMS system to begin with, because, and it's not just in our country, it's in a lot of countries where they start off with relatively like casual measures, but then people don't take them seriously. I mean, one of the first things was about encouraging people to, stay at a distance, encouraging people to work from home. Like they started with very basic measures other than closing schools. But then eventually it reached a point where people were all flocking to the boulevard, and you would have these big groups, supposedly getting fresh air and whatnot, but there are all these big groups hanging out with each other, people going to each other's houses in big groups. Like people were still not taking it seriously. And so then the government was like, well, you know what? We're just going to roll out this SMS system.
Oh, it's
And, now really it's very empty outside.
wow. Actually, I
But
could
they're going
see.
to be lenient. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's amazing because the way you said it is apt. Like in this podcast, I always like to bring everything back to Pakistan because usually the people I
Hmm.
interview are Pakistani.
Yeah.
So in Pakistan, the same thing is happening. Like the government asked for lockdown, they shut down companies, they shut down everything. Everyone's working from home. But I'm asked my mom, and she's out every other day. She's like, "Oh, I went for shopping. I went for this." I'm like, "Mom, can't you just stay at home?" And she's like, "Yeah, but what will I do at home? There's nothing for me to do at home." And I'm like, people
Yeah.
like you are the reason that
Exactly.
governments are coming up with these kind of things, because here in Germany, in Holland, people are not giving the government a reason to
Yeah.
do this. But if you go to the US,
Absolutely.
if you go to the UK, if you go to any other place in the world, people are just like, you know what, we want to hang out. You can't stop
Yeah.
us. Even in Italy, it was the worst place to be in this
Mhm.
time. I interviewed a guy here, and he said by legally, it's allowed for 6 people to be in the house, even within a lockdown
Wow.
time, because that's just the culture of Italy. We can't
Yeah.
tell people to be separated from each other. 6 people in a house. I said, you're not really containing the virus. If, for example, I meet different 6 people every single time, it's just weird.
Mhm.
Same with Pakistan. We are so culturally like intertwined with each other that we can never expect to be less than 5 to 8 people in the house. My friend
Yeah.
sends me snaps, and he says, "Oh, it's Tambola night or Antakshari night. These are like singing nights in which we
Okay.
we all sing together as family. Like
Oh, wow.
charades and stuff." And then I saw him
Yeah.
looking at a snap. There were like 20 people in his house. I'm like, dude,
Wow.
isn't it supposed to be a lockdown? He's like, dude, no one cares.
Yeah. I don't get it, honestly. Like, I have seen some people on Instagram in like various countries and cities, and there'll be like 15 people having drinks in someone's house, or like, I don't know, just hanging out somewhere. And I just don't get it, because that's the whole point. Where it's not about going to each other's houses, it's about just staying at home. What has
Yeah.
been your record, by the way? What has been like the longest time that you haven't left your house?
For me, as I said, like for me, it's not really that strict here. I've been stuck here for what, almost 1.5 month, but I go running every other day. Like every other day, I go out to run and then I come back.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Mhm.
my longest stretch of not meeting people is a lot. So the only person I've been meeting in this whole 1.5 month are, I think, 2 people. One is my girlfriend.
Yeah.
She visits me a lot, and other than that, it's a friend of mine who's my neighbor, who we
Yeah.
both like. We both walk like 3 meters away from each other, and we do a round, and then we come back. Other than that,
Yeah.
I've not met anybody physically. It's
Wow.
all online. So I'm like, that
Yeah.
social isolation part is going well for me, but
That's great.
staying at home really doesn't work. Like go for groceries, go for running. So
Yeah.
what about you? So tell us your routine. What does Lazifa do normally in a day? How long has it been since you've been out?
To be honest, because of my work schedule, I don't normally leave my house much, because usually I have like a work home type of routine. So after all of this started and after we had to be at home, like my life hasn't changed much in terms of socialization. Because honestly, like until all of this happened with the virus, I wouldn't really see my friends more than maybe once a week on average. Sometimes I could go like 10 days or something without seeing my friends, because everybody's so busy with their work, with their personal lives and their family. So I think for me, the biggest adjustment has just been having such a sedentary lifestyle. I mean, I'm just working every single day. I'm working 6 days a week online, and I've set up like my own temporary home office, literally in the middle of the living room. I have like this separate desk, and I even bought a desk chair for myself, and we had to bring a whiteboard from the office. So it's like, taking it really seriously, but every single day it's the same routine. You wake up, we have a meeting, then we teach for a few hours, then we have a meeting again after we teach, and this continues for 6 days. And
Yeah,
Sundays are the only days when I'm actually free to do what I want to do. So this is
yeah,
the I tried to get some chores done, like clean around the house and stuff. But yeah, it's just been like sitting for hours
yeah.
and hours.
Yeah, but like, how is the work-life balance going? Because a lot of things that people complain about with the concept of working from home is that the lines get really blurry. You know,
Yeah,
your brain doesn't really understand because when you were physically leaving the office, your brain understands it's shut off time. Leaving my
absolutely.
office, so now I can chill. But here, your laptop is always with you. Some people also
Absolutely.
use laptop to use Netflix or stuff, so you can always just get your work mail, or you can just see your Slack channel opening up. So how are you
Yeah.
handling that? How are you? Is that bothering you?
I've been telling people that I actually feel like I'm working more now in a way
Yeah,
because I feel like you have to control more things, especially teaching online. So it's like you just have like more measures. I mean, you have to see like, are they doing what they need to be doing? Like, are they being serious during their lessons? And I don't know, with the meetings and everything, and for the manager to handle all teachers online and stuff, it's a bit more work in some way. It's really odd. And plus, again, because my home office is in the living room, there's a TV, and so in the evenings when my mom is watching TV, I like although I'm supposed to be grading homework and stuff, indirectly I'm distracted and I start watching TV, and so I end up sitting at my desk for far more than I should be because I'm not as efficient.
yeah.
So there are those things too for sure.
Definitely, definitely. That makes sense actually. For me, it's actually the opposite. I've been much more productive here than I've been in the office because we work I'm an analyst, so for me it's more about like coding and visualizations. So in the
Yeah,
office people grab you a lot and they're like, "Hey, so what do you think about this? Or can you get me this report, or can you
true.
do this?" Here I'm just working my tasks and I get done really really fast, so it's much more
That's
productive
great.
for me. But I agree with
Mhm.
you. My lines are so blurry because
Yeah.
sometimes I want to study online, so I also
Mhm.
study online every now and then. So when I'm studying online, I suddenly go like, you know what, maybe I'll try this code or I'll try this visualization in my work right now. So I'll open up my work file and I'll just start working on it, and suddenly 2 hours have gone at 9 in the night, and I'm working
Yeah.
and I'm like, shit, I shouldn't be working right now. So it's
Exactly.
really difficult, like to like keep that distance. A lot of things
Absolutely.
my colleagues tell me is like, oh, you should still get up in the morning, shower, brush, get ready,
Mhm.
and start off your day, change your clothes. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. My meeting 10 a.m. is my
Uh-huh.
meeting. And when I used to go to work, I live in Eindhoven and I had to go to Amsterdam. So
Yeah.
it's a commute of 1.5 hours. So
Yeah.
whenever I would wake up, I had to wake up at 6:37 with my daily
Wow.
routine of running and everything, and I'll be at the office by 9:45.
That's
Now the
insane.
meeting is at 10 and I wake up at 9:55, put on this cap, and then I just go into the meeting. And my boss goes like, well, couldn't you just wake up a little bit early? I'm like, no, I can't. So
Yeah.
I'm going to talk to you guys. When the meeting is done, I'm going to go freshen up, wash my face, brush my teeth. Then I'm going to start working. I'm not going
Yeah.
to do this earlier than necessary. So it's very, very different how it works. So moving,
Definitely.
like, so your lockdown is going well. You said you pointed out that your mom is in the house with you. So it's is
Yeah.
you and your mom, or your sister is there with you as well?
Well, actually, we're quite a big family in the sense
Yeah.
that it's my parents, my sister, and my grandmother. Actually, like my paternal grandmother. So
Yeah.
we're basically five people living here, and in that case, that's part of the reason why you don't tend to feel lonely because anyway, like I share a bedroom with my sister. We're twins, we're the same
Yeah.
age, same interests. So, like I can always chat with her, and plus, like I'm always chatting online, like whenever I'm free on WhatsApp with my friends. But yeah, we're five people here, and my dad is still working, so although most companies, most organizations and stuff have closed down and they've been closed for a while now, in my dad's case with his profession, he has to go to work. So it also depends where your work is,
Yeah.
especially if it's like governmental institutions. So he's still going into work 5 times a week as per usual, but my mom is a housewife in that sense.
Yeah.
So not much has changed for my mom, I would
Yeah.
say.
That's pretty
Yeah.
interesting. So, like, this is really the reason I ask this kind of questions is like, hey, how many people are in the household? Because usually when you go out, you have your own space. Maybe you stay
Mhm.
outside, you go with your friends, you try to like chill out a little bit right now. But here, everyone is like right next to you. So you wake up, you see their face.
Absolutely.
So how are you handling
Absolutely.
it? How are you handling it?
Like thank God, my family is like really understanding though, because for instance, the living room. I mean, nobody enters the living room while I'm there. So like on average, from after maybe like 9:30 in the morning till at least 7 8 p.m. Basically, nobody enters that room because they know that I'm working. They know that I don't want any noise, and so in that case, like I'm pretty productive there. But in terms of like just personal space, it is hard because I mean where can you escape to? Because like everybody has their own corner in the house, and again, because I share a bedroom with my sister, so you're basically just always within these walls, just
Yeah.
rotate. And sometimes it's like you want to make a phone call, and it's like somebody's in that room, somebody's in that room, and you're like, should I just go to the bathroom? Like, where should I just talk on the phone? So it's a bit of a challenge, but that has nothing to do with the lockdown or anything. That's kind of always been like that. just because of the circumstances.
Yeah, generally, like for us, for us Desi people, families get to get a little bit overbearing in time, right?
Mm,
Because that's what we are. We usually go out after work. We would come home, spend time with the family, have some dinner, and then
yeah,
after dinner, for me at least, when I was in Pakistan, every day I would go out for tea with my friends because I would need
yeah,
just an escape. And when I
mm,
ask all of my friends who are in Pakistan, who are living with family, and I talk to them about this, they all go like, "Okay, you have no idea. We feel like someone's gonna kill someone in this lockdown. You know, it's gonna happen. Something
yeah,
is gonna happen because it's
yeah,
too overbearing because we are large families the whole time. As you said, it's the same with you.
that's
Five
true.
people, six people, eight people in the same house, and
Yeah,
it's
mm,
just and us families, like moms are usually, as you said, housewives, and our grandparents are there, and everyone just wants to watch a lot of Bollywood, so there's a lot of drama
yeah,
involved. So it's a lot of fun to just argue the whole time, discuss, and
yeah,
then everything just blows out of proportion every now and then. But yeah,
that's true.
so how's like life in, like in general, as a teacher? Now I want to bring it back to your job because that's the most important part, I think. Like as a teacher, what are you in the pits and the falls, like the pitfalls and the benefits of uh, teaching online versus teaching in the office? Do you see a difference? Do you see your students struggling? What is your personal take on working from home and stuff like that?
Yeah, those are very good questions. I mean, everything is changing. I would say that one of the difficulties, at least based on my observations looking at my students, is just this lack of face-to-face communication. A lot of my students are constantly complaining that they're really bored because, Azerbaijan's mentality, I mean, it's not teenagers like in Europe. Like teenagers in Europe, they go out from a very young age and they don't really have curfews. They can do what they want. But here like teenagers, they don't go out much. If they do, it's like to go to the cinema or to the park, and they're usually home quite early. And so like coming to the course and having these lessons was an opportunity for them to just meet some new people and just to be out of their homes and just do something a bit different. Whereas now they're always at home. And so they're kind of struggling with that. I mean, they're really bored, and I know they've set up their own group chats and they're trying to have their own like conversations and whatnot. But I would say that that's one of the disadvantages for sure. And again, just considering our usual lifestyle here, it's kind of an escape for them to go to these courses and just to meet young people and hang out with their peers. But otherwise, in terms of me as a teacher, I would say that it's been kind of harder to control my students in a way because, yeah, okay, granted, we obviously always must have our cameras on. Like all my students, they join with the camera. But still, they're at home and like, they're sitting comfortably in their pajamas and like it's just not the same approach because one thing is like physically leaving your home and getting dressed and being somewhere like in an institution or course or something, whereas another thing is you're at home and like your mom is watching TV or somebody's calling someone, or I don't know if you have a pet or something. So I would say that maybe in that sense it's been a little bit like less formal or less, I don't know, serious in some way. But I think it's also just a matter of time and adaptation. Like in the beginning, it was strange, it was stressful, but now I think I've gotten the hang of it, and my students have gotten used to it, and we're all just hoping for the best. But again, I think it also largely depends on what you're teaching. In our case, like we already had some online tests, just part of the way that our course functions and our course program and everything. So we kind of already had online materials. And obviously the kids, like teenagers and stuff, still have their textbooks. It's okay. But I know there are other subjects. Like for example, I know that there are some teachers teaching music, for instance, like how to play instruments. They're struggling a lot because it's very different teaching an instrument just on camera because it's
Definitely.
better if you're like physically next to that student, or I don't know, maybe something like math. I think it would be easier if you were there like solving with the kids. So I think that also plays a role. It depends what you're teaching, how many students you have. Those things matter too.
Definitely, definitely. I think it's wonderful what you're talking about because this is for me. I see a very big change in lifestyle coming in due to COVID
Absolutely.
19. Like I can see a lot of people would be working from home now.
Hmm.
For my case, that's definitely true. We were allowed to work once a week, and I'm going to be
Yeah,
pushing for at least twice a week now. Even if
yeah,
things go normal, I'm like, hey, you know what? We
exactly.
saw it works. We're still productive. So I
Exactly.
would prefer to work from home so I can get some long weekends, maybe leave the country,
Hmm.
go with my girlfriend somewhere, stay there,
Exactly.
work there. It's fine for me. I don't mind working on vacations because for me, vacations is just supposed to be a change of scenery. I don't need to
Yeah.
travel. Like I don't need to like, oh, I need to wake up and see these landmarks and do these kind of things. I just want to have good food. I want to have good food and I want to have a change of scenery. So if
Yeah.
that way I can work, I don't mind. I told my girlfriend that hey, for me the best case would be for 4 months. we take a sabbatical. So I work remotely, but for
Mhm.
4 weeks, 4 months, we go down into South America, and we travel
Yeah.
down in South America for 4 months. We won't have any money issues because the money, the job will be still on, the money will be coming in. So that'll be really interesting. So yeah, so for work and for studies as well, like you can see a big change coming into online
Yeah.
classes. And
Oh,
I'm
100%.
a big fan of online classes. I think since I graduated, even before I graduated in Bilkent, in my last year, I used to take courses from Coursera and Udemy. I did
Yeah.
cooking courses online. I did analytical courses online, and it's just so much easier for me as a student.
Mhm.
I personally love it. I can
Mhm.
speed up the course to 2x, and I can get
That's
by the
true.
content really, really fast. And
Yeah.
it's just it's for me it's been like I love this. I see it's a blessing in disguise, this
Mhm.
COVID-19, because it's going to change the way conventional universities actually uh,
That's true.
yeah, because sometimes it's like a friend of mine who is studying, he says, I there's a live class on Zoom, but they record it for us as well. So I don't go to
Mhm.
the live class because I know it's 2 hours, and once the recording
Yeah.
happens, I can just play it on 2x speed, and I can just watch it in 1 hour. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you absorb the same. I can vouch for it because I've been doing this. You can absorb the same amount of information. It's actually easier
Exactly.
for you because your attention is always apt. When the person is speaking fast, you always go like, okay, I need to focus, or else I'm not. If the person
I've
is
never
speaking
tried
very
that.
slow, like if it's
Uh-huh.
1x speed, you're gonna trail off. You're gonna be like, oh shit, I'm daydreaming or something like
Yeah, it's like slow and steady. Yeah.
exactly for that. So I think it's really wonderful how we are trying to adapt to new things. And as you said, it happened with my friend as well. He's in the start, recordings were a mess. Teachers could not like do stuff, and everything was like all glitchy. But now
Yeah.
1 month.
Oh, the internet. Oh, don't even get me started.
And one
Yeah.
month in, everything is so streamlined now. They're like, oh, the recording is gonna go up at this time. You don't even need to be there. It's not
Yes.
gonna be live anymore. I already
Exactly.
recorded over the weekend. Teachers are really
Hmm.
like getting hang of how to do online courses and stuff like that. And I think
Definitely.
it's going towards a very, very positive direction, because
Hmm.
online education is, it breaks down a lot of barriers. Don't you think? Like you have
Definitely.
to, yeah, it helps you provide education to people who might not have physical access to your institution.
Exactly, and I think it also helps with commuting. I mean, obviously, students tend to waste time commuting. Like, it's not like all the students at our branch, because we have many branches around Baku. It's not like all our students live right next door. You know, some of these
Yeah,
students would travel for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, especially with public transportation. Even some of my colleagues, as far as I know, would travel for like an hour. Whereas now, it's you're at the comfort of your home and you really don't waste any time. And in that case, it does help you be a bit more efficient. But I would also say that it all, again, going back to the concept of like, it depends what you're teaching. Because on the other hand, other than just general English, I also teach IELTS and TOEFL and helping
yeah,
students prepare. And yeah, like it's a stressful time for those students. And I actually feel kind of sorry for these high schoolers who are just about to graduate, because we when we think of high school and like your senior year, we think of prom, we think of just like a senior trip or celebrations and like the whole graduation party, and it's kind of all taken away from them at the moment. Like, who knows, maybe by June they'll be able to have it kind of delayed perhaps. But that's like one thing that's a bit like upsetting. I
yeah,
feel like I feel sympathy towards them. I can only understand how sad they feel. And also, there's this uncertainty about traveling, because so many students have had this intention to go abroad. And even though they're still continuing with their lessons, they're still dealing with their applications and whatnot, they're not sure. And parents are starting to become a bit insecure. They're like, maybe you shouldn't go abroad anymore. Why don't you just study here?
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
kind of like their dream being taken away from them, because, again, going back to the concept of our mentality, I mean, a lot of these teenagers, they see going abroad as a chance to just live their life independently and do things that maybe here wouldn't be so acceptable in
yeah.
terms of curfews and things like that. And I feel sorry for them, really. I really always hope for the best, and I try to keep them motivated that, like, don't give up, education is so important, and everything is going to adapt accordingly. Worst case, you'll start online, and then maybe within a semester you'll have face-to-face lessons or something. There's still hope. It's not like it's
Definitely.
the end of the world.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you're right with what you talked about high schools, the schools. It's just in general. I think this is a new era of
Yeah.
a new society, and it's a thing that my colleague actually said. It was really nice what he said. He said this is the era of 1.5 meter society. So you're not gonna have concerts this year, at least for the
Yeah,
next 6 months, you're not going to have concerts, you're not going to
exactly.
have big gatherings, you're not going to have pool parties, you're not going to have
Yeah,
football gatherings. Everything is going to go really, really far away. Bill Gates also said that no one would be really comfortable sitting next to a person in a stadium until and unless you have a vaccine that
yeah,
guarantees you that it's
exactly.
gonna help you and nothing's gonna happen. So this year is looking really gloomy in that perspective. Is
Yeah, it really is.
yeah, it's gonna be iffy. Kids want to study, parents don't want to let their kids go really far away. Even my mom calls me five
Mhm.
times a day and she
Yeah,
asks me,
I
are
can
you are
imagine.
you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, I'm pretty good. I'm in my home. I don't do anything. You know me, mom. Like, I have my PlayStation and I can stay in the house for like weeks. I don't mind. But she still
Um,
gets worried. She goes like, no, I need you to stay away. I need you to wear gloves. I need you to wash your
yeah,
hands every time you go outside.
yeah,
It's really a new era of a society that's coming out, and I'm not really looking forward to it, to be honest.
yeah.
It's
Same
not,
here.
because I think it's also a cultural thing. I don't know about how Azerbaijanis feel about this, but we Desi people generally are very, very, you can say, proximity loving. So
Mm-hmm.
we're touchy. We love sitting together. We love like
Yeah,
having that really a big batch of people sitting together and enjoying kind of fun.
absolutely.
So for us, isolation never worked, right? For
Yeah. And
isolation,
I remember from my like Bill Camp years as well, I remember that like the groups were always so large and everybody would hang out with each other
exactly,
and like
yeah,
big groups. So it's kind of hard to just take that away because it's almost like part of your culture in a way as well. It's part of your traditions perhaps as well. And in some ways, I like it's the same here because even just taking something as weddings, I mean, it's always about big groups. It's always about inviting everybody. And in fact, to the point where you have to invite everybody because others might get offended and they might think
exactly,
like, why wasn't I invited? And so then you end up having like 300, 400, 500 people at this event. And now everything is just so, I mean, it's just full of question marks. And I think for me, especially, the worst part is just not knowing when I'm going to be able to travel again because I work so much and like all year, all I think about is that one time a year, usually summer, when I think, okay, in summer I can travel. And now
yeah.
I'm like, well, okay, we're 2 months away from the summer, but clearly that's not happening. And it's a bit like it's difficult, especially because I didn't grow up here. So like my friends and everything, everyone's abroad mostly.
Yeah.
And it's hard, but I got very lucky because I managed to travel in January.
Oh,
I
that's nice.
traveled right before all of this happened, and I was in Turkey for a whole week, so I got to see some of my friends and all. So I mean, I feel so blessed. I'm so
Yeah,
happy I had that
yeah,
opportunity.
same for me. I traveled in January to Pakistan, met with my family and friends. Then I went to Bali. Just had
Oh my
some
God.
amazing place. I was just
Wow.
mesmerizing. And then I came back, and then this thing started, and I was like, okay, thank God I
Yeah.
had a retreat, because then it makes you refresh a little bit. But I think you're on point with what you're saying about, it's all about question marks.
Yeah.
And in this time when everything is all about question marks and you don't know what's going to happen, it takes a toll on you mentally, right? So I want to take
100%.
this time right now to discuss, you, as you said yourself, that you don't have privacy in the house because you have five people in the house. There's not much space.
Hmm.
You don't even have your room. I've been there. I never had my
Yeah.
own room. You even shared. I never even shared. I never had a room in my house
Yeah.
back in Pakistan. It was always like we had a three-bedroom place. So it would be
Yeah.
my sister, my brother, my mom and dad. That's it. I would be a
Ah,
nomad.
okay.
I would be sleeping on the floor everywhere else. So
Yeah.
it's always been like that for me. So how do you think mentally? It's been 1.5 month for us, all of us in quarantine. Mentally, how are you holding up? The mental aspect of it. How you think your students are holding up? My friend told me that his students actually messaged him from time to time
Hmm.
because he was their teacher, and they were feeling lonely and they just wanted to talk
Yeah.
to someone. And then he said that
Yeah.
I befriended them because that's everyone needs support at this time. So how are you holding up, and how do you think this all thing is going to go in line with the question marks that are happening in the future?
Mhm. Yeah, again, very important topic to talk about. I think mental health is very important. And it also, like, I think this experience is teaching all of us to reach out. And I take my duty as a teacher very seriously. Like, I feel like it's important to connect to your students. And obviously, I have a bunch of students following me on Instagram. So for me, it's even something as small as just once in a while sharing positive quotes on my story because I know that people see it, and not just my students, anybody who follows me. And I even have like this, like, folder on my Instagram with a bunch of positive quotes so that if anybody needs, without even informing me, they can just go on my profile and look at these quotes. I think it's just surrounding yourself with positivity and reaching out to people and showing people that you're open. And I've always had this approach myself whenever I'm feeling down. I tend to focus on other people. So I think that's kind of why being a teacher works so well for me, because it's about doing something useful and having a purpose and helping out other people. And by doing all of those, I kind of forget about my own worries. I kind of forget about my own problems or my anxiety or something like that. And that's kind of what's been happening now. I think mentally I've been doing a pretty good job just because I'm so busy all the time working, checking homework after, and then just winding down, playing a game on my phone or watching TV with my mom or something. And so and plus like just staying in touch with everybody. I think I've been video calling some people more than I did before all of this happened. And all of those things help a lot. I have my sister to talk to. But regarding my students, again, I think it again goes back to like the lifestyle as well. I think it's also harder for those people who are already used to going out all the time. And here, given that the average age group that I teach is around maybe 12, 13 up until about 17, 18, that age group here, like our families, our parents, they don't really let us go out to clubs. They don't really let us go out to parties or anything like that. So you still spend most of your evenings at home with your family and whatnot. So it's not like they were like out that much to begin with. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that they're necessarily lonely. I would say that they're just kind of bored just because they're stuck in their homes just physically, because now you feel like you have to. So a lot of people game, and they're fine gaming every single day, but now that you feel like you don't have a choice other than to game and to kill your time, it kind of loses its appeal.
Yeah, it's so
And
weird. Yeah, you're right.
absolutely. And I think it's just making the best of it and focusing on the small things, like even just going on the balcony. I just like love to just soak in the sunshine and have my tea in the mornings, or I don't know, just putting on some music on Spotify while I'm checking some homework. So I think it's just about adjusting and doing small things every day to just to stay positive. And if not, if you're struggling, it's so important to reach out. Like nobody should be shy or feel like a loser or anything. It's totally normal to have problems. It's very normal that some people can handle it and some people can't, and that doesn't make you inferior. That doesn't make you weak. I feel like a lot of people have this idea that if you have problems or if you're feeling a bit depressed or whatever, then that means that you're weaker. And I completely disagree with that mentality. I feel like it's human to have emotions, and it doesn't make you any less of a person.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right with we are social creatures. It's been proven by science. It's been
Absolutely.
proven in every aspect, even introverts. Like
Hmm.
a lot of misconception people have is that, oh, we're introverts, so we don't need social interaction. No, that's not true.
Nonsense.
They're
Yeah.
saying it was a really good analogy a psychologist made. I heard in a TED talk. She said that being an introvert is like you having a small appetite.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you still don't need food. You
That's
need
a
food,
great way to
but
put it.
yeah, but
Yeah.
you need less food than a normal person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so an introvert needs to really have good quality social interactions, but
Yeah.
it needs to be less. But it doesn't mean that
Exactly.
it can just go away. And what you said
Yeah.
about being forced, it's such a weird trend. Like it's psychological, right? That you think that, oh, I can be comfortable in my home and Netflix and chill the whole week when I have to go to work. But now that I don't have
Yeah.
to go to work and I'm stuck inside, suddenly Netflix and chill is not that appealing to me just because I'm being
Exactly.
forced to stay at home. It's just
Exactly.
mind shift. Like it's just a mind shift. Why
Absolutely.
do you have to like it was a really good LinkedIn post. I found it funny, to be honest, by this guy. He said, I'm a remote worker and I love it. And
Mhm.
I there's nothing better than what I like it. But right now working from home is not remote working because now I don't have a choice, and that's not making it fun for me. I'm really looking
Yeah.
forward to the fact that when all of this blows over, I can still continue my remote working. And I'm like, you're
Yeah.
just making it complicated for no reason. Like,
Yeah.
you're just trying to create
Exactly.
these barriers in your mind. As you said, you need to you don't need to have any barriers. You need to reach out. You need to accept that
Yeah.
some things are just in your mind. And this is what I
Yeah.
also tell people when I tell them that your mind can be your greatest asset and it also can be your greatest enemy. Don't
Absolutely.
let it ruin you. Think of it this as vacation. Think of this as you
Yeah.
winding down yourself. Don't think of this as forced on you. Whenever you feel
Exactly.
anything is forced on you, it loses its appeal. You start
Absolutely.
feeling anxiety, you start feeling panic, and everything just loses its color, right? Like when I
Hmm.
go out running and if I look at it as a chore, I it just doesn't feel nice. It just feels annoying.
Exactly.
But if you look at it as a part of your routine and you go like, you know what, I won, I'm looking forward to it. Suddenly the grass looks greener, the air feels
Absolutely.
sweeter, and the wind feels nicer, and it all just falls into place,
Exactly.
right?
And I love that topic actually. Like I feel like my mental approach towards life and just the predictability of life really changed after I graduated, because I just had to come back here. So after having spent about 20 years abroad, moving here was both pleasant and stressful and depressing all at the same time. Just because on the one hand I was happy to finally have the opportunity to learn more about my culture and learn more about my family and spend more time with my relatives, but on the other hand I was also really just anxious because I was just thrown out of what was my comfort zone. I was always abroad, I was always in an English environment, I was always with my friends, having full independence, full freedom to do whatever I wanted. And then having to come here and just adapting to this mentality and approach and lifestyle was difficult. And then that's when I really started focusing on this concept of like positive affirmations, which is like every day just telling yourself like today is going to be a good day and believing it, or just surrounding yourself with positive quotes, or just the law of attraction, the power of your mind, like all these kind of topics really started making sense to me after that period. Because I had like a few very, very difficult months in Baku. Like I was really, really down all the time. I was crying a lot. But then now I don't struggle as much anymore just because, as you said, it's all about you just enjoying it and not making such a big deal out of everything. And again, it also shows you that we really can't control life. We can't control the future. And I think as humans, we have a certain daily routine and we get used to it. So then when that changes, we just don't know how to deal with it. But in
Yeah.
reality, like there's nothing that dictates that we must have a schedule, we must have these hours. This is all man made. This is all created by society. If you take away the clocks, if you take away the calendars, what's going to happen? People are just going to do what they want whenever they want, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. You don't need to wake up in the morning, have a 5 a.m.
Yeah,
club and go for success.
exactly.
And I think you put it really well. I personally feel this way as well. Like I consider myself a stoic, right? So I
Hmm.
consider myself that, okay, what is in my control is how I perceive things and
Exactly.
whatever I can do about it. And what is not
Mhm.
in my control is it's just beyond my control. So I don't need to
Absolutely.
think about it. I don't care if someone comes and slaps me.
Mhm.
I cannot get it should not bother me that they slap me because they slap me. It's not
Absolutely.
in my control. What is in my control is how I
Yeah.
react to their slap. And if I
Mhm.
react to the slap negatively, then I'm giving them the importance that they don't need, right?
Exactly.
So it's pointless. So you can take that as a slap, which is a relatively actually an aggressive way to put it, but you can also put it in any other way. But it's just
Yeah.
the fact that you are only in charge of the perception of everything that's happening around
Absolutely.
you, not
Mhm.
everything that's happening around you. So it's not your
Yeah.
fault that COVID happened. It's not your fault that your high school graduation has been delayed. It's not your fault
Mhm.
that for me, I was planning to get married. I was planning to get engaged this year.
No.
It's not my fault, or it's not
Exactly.
anything like that. That oh no, it's because we were thinking no. It's it happened, and once this blows over, we can still continue like we did, right?
Exactly.
Time is a man-made construct. What are we? We're losing a few months. That's okay. A few months in the span of
Mhm.
90 years, 80 years, it doesn't even seem
Exactly.
anything, right?
And it
Uh,
again also really ties into the concept of how everybody feels like they have to live life in a certain way, and they have to have like they basically everybody has a certain timeline. So they think, okay, by this age I must do this, by this age I must get married, by this age I must do ABC. And then again, this period is teaching you that that's not how it works. It shouldn't be like that. Everybody has their own timeline, and things happen at different periods for different people for different reasons because of different circumstances. And again, that doesn't mean that your life is less meaningful or that life has no purpose. I mean, it just means that things are happening for a reason, and there are lessons to be learned, and you have to adapt your values as well. And this is a time for you to learn what is important in your life, what's not, what to focus on, what not to focus on. And I remember even like in my senior year at school for a yearbook, we had to choose a quote. I could be wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, it was a quote from Maya Angelou. If I'm not mistaken, I probably butchered her name. But basically, the concept of the quote was that, if something happens in your life, you have to think either, can you change it? Yes or no. If you can change it, do that. If you can't change it, then just adapt and focus on your mindset. I mean, obviously, that's not the exact quote, but that's just the meaning of the quote. And again, that's something that I've been like basically thinking and believing in for years now. And I tell that to my students all the time as well. So even when they're feeling really demotivated or lost about their future plans or university applications, I just tell them that, it doesn't mean that it's over. You just have to be positive and just change your plans and adapt. There's no tragedy in that.
Definitely, definitely, very well said. So now we're moving on to the end of the whole segment, and here we just generally want to, as we start the conversation by knowing who Lazifa is and what she does, we want to end the same way about what Lazifa does and what Lazifa likes. So, what are you streaming these days? What are you listening to these days? What are you reading these days? Anything that lets our listeners know who is Lazifa and what is her likes and dislikes.
Well, my life nowadays, other than revolving around my students and my job, also revolves around my guinea pigs. I have a pet,
Oh, you
and
still have them, right?
and
Is his
yeah,
one
he's
from
going to turn six
university?
years old. Exactly, the
Oh,
same one, my traveler.
yeah,
So he's
nice.
gonna turn 6 years old this year, and like his cage is in the living room. So when I teach, he sometimes like disturbs my lessons because he starts begging for food. So I spend a lot of time with him, and then I've been keeping up with Survivor Turkey on Turkish TV channel with my mom. I watch that sometimes. I don't read. I haven't been reading for a long time just because I'm reading essays all the time.
Yeah, I understand.
It's just IELTS essays and whatnot. It's just like my brain is overloaded by text and by vocabulary. I can't be bothered to touch
Yeah,
my books. But yeah, I don't know. Life has been around my baking as well, so I've been keeping up a baking blog for a couple of years. It's a couple
yeah,
of
yeah.
things.
Still going strong with that. I
Yeah, it's
remember.
still
Yeah,
going.
that's
Yeah.
nice. That's nice.
Yeah, so I'm a very ordinary person, not too many interesting things about me.
No, but that's well
Yeah.
enough. Survivor, the Turkish series of Survivor is a recommendation by Lazifa if any one of you is interested in watching. I'm not a big fan of Turkish TV. I'm actually a big fan of Spanish TV for some reason. I don't know. Maybe
Oh, nice.
it's the impact of Netflix, but Spanish TV serials are just out of this world.
Yeah,
The coordination, the cinematography, everything is just amazing.
yeah,
It's I'm loving it. But yeah, for me, Netflix has been the only thing that I've been doing. Nothing else. But yeah, thank you so much,
yeah.
Lazifa, and it was
Thank you very much for
wonderful.
having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah,
Very
catching up
happy.
with you was amazing. Getting to know
Yeah,
you
it's so
more.
nice to actually see you.
So it's actually good. We've been what in Bilkent for 4 years, and we would rarely get time, seldom get time to actually talk to each other like this, because it's just in university, everyone is just in their own thing and everything is busy.
Yeah,
So it's really nice to actually catch Lazifa right now and just spend some good half an hour with her, get to know her more, and hopefully you have more fun with your students, and
hopefully.
it all blows over so that you can travel. I still
I
think.
hope so. That's my number one goal. Like as soon as I can travel, I told my parents, like, I don't care. That's the first thing I'm doing. I don't need anything else. I'm gonna travel.
Yeah, I'm also looking forward to it because there's so many places which you find right now. Everything is like dead cheap, right? I'm
Yes,
seeing return prices to the US 200, return prices to Vietnam 300, 400. Is
crazy.
this? I'm like, was this cheap? Is this very cheap for us? But yeah, so like, thank you so much for your time, and
Thank you. Thank
I hope
you.
to catch you anywhere else.
I hope
Preferably
so
when we're
too.
traveling somewhere and we just actually just run into
Exactly.
each other.
Exactly. That'll be awesome. That's the cool thing of having friends abroad.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. If you're ever in Holland, you know you have a friend here, and you
And
can always visit it.
likewise, yeah,
Yeah,
same.
definitely. I actually want to visit Baku. Baku has been the premium destination for Pakistanis these days for some reason.
Yeah.
It was Turkey a few years ago, but in the
Hmm.
past 2 3 years, it's always Baku. In my work when I was
I
there, my
know.
colleagues always talked about I want to go to Baku. I'm like, but what is in Baku? I don't know anything about Baku, so I
I'll
was
take
like,
you around. Don't worry. Like Subhas has been here before. He probably
yeah,
told you
so
about it. I took
also,
him around. Just trust me. Like there's lots to do here, lots to see.
yeah,
At
definitely.
least
I'm
for you guys, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, hopefully.
I'll be waiting.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
thank you all for listening. I hope you all had uh, as much fun as we did catching up and just discussing the importance of mental health, amongst other things. So I don't even remember the days. I stopped counting. So this was just another conversation amongst lockdown people. And hopefully we'll catch you next time. Thank you so much for listening.